Welcome to the Indie Musician Summit 2021 with your host, Kate Westwood, brought to you by Westwood Management.
Okay, welcome back to the Indie Musician Summit. Kate here again, and I'm so excited to have back for 2 years in a row the amazing Ali Taylor from Listenup Music. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Kate. So excited to be here again. Year two.
Year two, it's so wonderful to reconnect with you and also to catch up on a year of life and COVID and challenges. And, you know, that's perfect to talk about with what you do. So for people who weren't here last year, who didn't jump on board and don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about you and who you are and how you came to be where you are right now.
Thank you. Yes, so I'm the CEO and co-founder of Listenup Music. So we are an award-winning registered mental health music charity, very much focused on action as opposed to just awareness raising, and operate all over the country, and been in operation now for a number of years in Australia. And yeah, really keen to talk to you more about what the year has been for us and what we've been up to. But yeah, essentially for anyone in the music industry professional to help anyone develop and maintain positive mental health. That's where we sit.
Wonderful. Now you do have a slight accent, so you're not from Australia originally. Tell us a little bit about where you've hail from.
Yeah, I love that you say slight accent. It's a very neutral, strange accent, especially given that I'm originally Scottish. I'm from Scotland, but spent a lot of time in England and went to university in London. I've lived in France for a bit. I've been in America for a bit. And this is my second stint back in Australia. So yeah, a bit all over the place, really.
The lovely international accent. I love that.
Yeah, international accent. I'll go with that.
Yeah, and especially because I've traveled a lot, you know, as well as being international, it's your language as well, because you learn to say things that are acceptable in different countries. You know, you talk about diapers instead of nappies, for example, in America, because you know that that's accepted. Anyway, you know, so much fun. Well, because we're in Australia, we say nappies. So that's great. Okay, let's touch on Listenup Music. You were saying, you know, things have shifted and changed. In a normal year, in a normal space, what would it normally look for you? How has it been going in these lockdowns? And what are the main things that you've had to change so that you can still be serving artists to the best of your ability?
Yeah, it's a normal year is very focused on connecting into the community. So we're massive on connection and community. It's really the things that we're probably best known for. So we have a number of events that happen in a calendar year. Our flagship event, the Songwriting Prize, which is a nationwide songwriting competition. It has regional semi-finals in various states of the country, and a grand final in New South Wales. And then Torchfest, our mental health music festival, happening in a number of different locations too. Plus then a lot of individual focused events where we have kind of spotlights on kind of 2 or 3 artists, so small artist showcases that happen in different venues as well. And then the other side of what we do is on the education side. So we do a lot of lived experience talks, and we do education and training and things like that. So very much in person as much as we can, and certainly from the feedback we get from people who attend our events and our educational programs, that's where we're strongest, and that's where people love to be a part of our community. So when you think of the last 12 months, we've had to pivot everything. It's not just a small pivot. It's, okay, well, how can we keep our community connected, and how can we retain some of that essence that we have from having people in person, which has been no small challenge at all. It's been really difficult. Seeing a lot of events postponed or rescheduled, and our education offerings having to pivot to some of those things being online. But because of the mental health elements of it, we have to be extra careful and do extra due diligence, because, you know, having a group of people learning about mental health in a face-to-face capacity is really easy to see people's trigger points or if people are struggling. Whereas if you pivot to having things online from a person self-serving that kind of content, it's really difficult to know how people are going while they're going through that. So had to put lots of extra steps in place. And then just flipping back to the event side as well, when certain states are in different restriction levels to others, is okay, well, we'll plan for a face-to-face, and then our plan B will be for online, and a plan C will be for reschedule. So actually the workload has been triple because we've had to, for every event, we've had to have 3 different options. So yeah, enormous pivoting and changing this year.
But of course, what you were saying, so important to keep your pulse on what's going on with the community. You know, all of us having to go through it. And look, I say for myself, I'm a what I call an uber optimist. And so even if I have a bad day or something doesn't work well, I'll be like, oh, it'll be fine. I'm able to find the silver lining even in the worst situation, you know, as an uber optimist. And I say that I usually have a couple of bad days a year, but it's like every week now for me. And I think if I am so positive, so able to move forward, so able just to roll with the punches, and I'm struggling in a lockdown, how much is it for people who already might find things difficult, might already have a tenuous mental health challenge? And so for me, I've been like, whoa, this is full on, and something that we have to pay attention to. And whether you know or not, every speaker, Ali, that I've been talking to, and every featured artist, we ask the question, how are you going with your mental health, and what have they been doing to keep that up? And so we've been writing that down. You know, every attendee will get you know, in the PDF of each speaker, and the tips and tricks that they're using. And I've already been really inspired by just some of the simple things that people have been doing. We realize that mental health is something that we should include in our discussions. It should be part of what we do, not just a one day a year where we say, hey, are you okay? But we're actually looking and encouraging one another in a regular space. And so I just wanted to let you know we've been doing that because we really believe that that's important, especially in the summit. So let's talk, you know, with all of that to say that, you know, people are struggling, from the most positive to the ones who are already in a dark place. You know, things are hard. How are you able to help people navigate these pandemics and this lockdown, which has been just so challenging financially, emotionally, creatively, relationally for so many artists? That was a very long lead up to that. But what have you been doing to help them navigate these lockdowns?
No, it's really interesting, Kate, talking about that uber optimism, because I remember talking to you about this last year, and we're both very much the same, always looking for the opportunity or the way that we can pivot. And we talked last year about how you know, we were starting to have less of the optimism and more of the struggle, whereas this year it's now a case of this prolonged period of this stuff happening. So yeah, seeing more and more of those days, or those the frequency of times of those things creeping in. And as you said, so many different elements have been impacted in terms of the financial, the relationships, the social element, the you know, diet, exercise, all that kind of stuff. So when we look at the support that we're giving to people, is, you know, we take into account the things that are being shared across social media readily, you know, the national days that you mentioned, or the weeks or the months, and we look at where are the gaps, what are the things that people aren't talking about, because, you know, people, and I'm sure you've had some of these answers from the people on the summit you've talked to, is you know, people know about getting fresh air and getting vitamin D and, you know, going for a walk and all those kind of things. So we're, rather than just adding to that noise, we're kind of looking at, well, what else are people missing? And that's really difficult, because we get a lot of that data point from being with our community, and again, pivoting online, and people have got survey fatigue and things like that. So it's like, well, how do we actually find out what people are feeling and going through? So the ways that we've been supporting people is we've had some live stream events or live Q&As where we've invited anybody from the public to come along and just ask any question that's burning. We've also got involved in other organizations, kind of team huddles and things like that, where we've gone along and spoken for 5 or 10 minutes about what it is that we're seeing and feeling and hearing what they're feeling. And by doing that, we've actually collected a lot of data points. And so, yeah, the music industry and how it is hit by all of these mental health challenges outside of the pandemic, we're finding that they're exacerbated in the pandemic. So from a financial perspective, as a relatively small charity, we don't feel that throwing money at the issue is going to help. You know, there's been a lot of work done around helping people to pay rent or get through the next couple of weeks, but actually what the industry wants is to get back on its feet, and these people within it want to be self-sufficient and they want to support themselves. So how can we equip people more with the tools or the resources to help them get back to that point? So with our events, for instance, we had to postpone a number of our events, and with doing that, we then applied for grants for the artists that were performing to recoup the fee that they would have got for the original date, and then committed to pay them for the secondary date. So they can actually see a bit of the silver lining that, you know, there's going to be work coming, but I'm not going to be losing all of the financial pieces. So as a charity, we feel that we've got a responsibility to help out in those areas where we can. And really, it's a really difficult one to give generalist advice to the industry of these things for people to do, because everyone is at a different stage of their mental health journey. And some people, as you said, have never experienced anything until now. So it's a case of, okay, well, here's the basics, here's the starting points. You know, have you looked at things like mindfulness? Have you looked at things like that? Whereas they may never have ever discovered it or looked at it before. Whereas somebody who's a bit further along the journey, if you start to talk to them about, well, take a walk or do this, they'll be like, I've done all of those things. I'm at kind of stage 3. So what do you have for somebody who's gone through all of those? And I've certainly found that myself, being somebody who likes a lot of variety and likes to get out there and be in different places all of the time, is a case of, okay, well, how today am I going to find interest in the mundane? So yeah, it's a big challenge, and rather than blanket approach it or throw money at it, we feel like doing more of the individualized or targeted support is what's helping.
Yeah, that's really good. I think, yeah, rather than just trying to reinvent the sliced bread or, you know, do the same thing that somebody else is doing, is looking for some of those ways. How has it been in regards to how you have been going? So I know, you know, last time we talked last year, Melbourne was in this big lockdown, Sydney was kind of free. Now, you know, even for yourself, being able to almost put yourself in the shoes of all the other artists who are going through this kind of thing, what has it been like for you personally?
It's been a real challenge, and I have up until the start of the pandemic, I've always prided myself on somebody who knows the things in their life that really helps them at different times. So, you know, I'm a massive gig goer. I like working from different places. I like interacting with lots of different people, having variety. I've got a big family, so I've got my wife and 5 kids and a dog at home, but I still enjoy having all of that variety. So then going into a situation where we're told we have to be in one place and do one thing, sitting at the same desk every day, not being able to go out, not being able to see live music, live sport, any of that kind of stuff, has been a real challenge. So normally where those kind of self-care things are, where it's like, I need to go and see friends or I need to go to a gig or something, I've had to find alternatives or different things for that. And it's really hard when you are in, the same 4 walls. So yeah, I've probably struggled more in the last 18 months than at any other time in my adult life. But I feel from a Listenup perspective and an industry perspective, it's given me more of an insight into what others, like you said, in Melbourne through their lockdown, were dealing with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is probably, if you look at the silver lining of that, which we're good at doing, is actually, okay, well, this gives me empathy for other people who are going through this. All right, so I want to go back to something you were saying before around, this kind of limbo waiting time that now it's not the same for everyone across the world. And so we can't really speak to everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about what it's like in Australia, recognizing that we do have people from all over the world watching, but people not realizing in Australia that we've had some really, here in Melbourne, the longest lockdown in the world, cumulative. And we've had really big chunks of time where we can't gig, where tours have been cancelled. We can't leave our states. Like there's just a lot going on. And so we were talking before about, how we kind of live in this limbo space of not really being able to get out and create and do those things. What do you think in terms of that sense of creativity? Should we just be putting things on the back burner? Should we be sitting in I'm using the example of turning the car off and saving the energy, or sitting in an idling space while still creating? So say when things do open up, we're ready to go straight away. Like, what are some of your thoughts around because I also think that putting too much pressure on ourselves in a really hard time can also be not great. It's like it's okay to just go and put your music down for a moment and go and just learn to be an excellent cook, or build a great vegetable garden, or pick up, sewing, or, some other, practical creative space. I think it's good for us to know ourselves outside of that, but I just wanted to get your take on whether we should be, chomping at the bit, ready to go, or stepping back, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, Kate, and especially given this constant excitement about things coming back and then going back into lockdown, and then excitement and going back to that. And I just think for people who are constantly looking forward to things, that's a really tricky place to be in, because I'm that kind of person where, my wife and I talk about this all the time, where I'll get excited about something before it's happened, or before I've bought something, or something's arrived in the post, and then it opens me up to disappointment of things not happening. Whereas she's incredibly has this incredible thing where she won't get excited about it until it's here, and so we're very different in that regard. But it means that she protects herself from this. Getting excited and then it being dashed. So for people who feel like that, I think it's a perfect time to focus their energies elsewhere and maybe pause. Some people don't have that luxury where they can, because they need to be able to earn money and do it from that. But, I've seen artists with paid opportunities where they've been doing mini sort of gigs online, and especially in the corporate sector, where they've had people invited along to, like I said, team huddles and things like that. We've enabled some of that stuff to happen, where they'll go along for 15 minutes and they'll be paid to do some originals and some covers. And then, they've still got the money coming in from that, but they don't have to be overly creative in saying, okay, I've got to put together a whole set and, the lighting and everything else that goes with it, and then finding out that it's been cancelled at the last minute. There is a little bit of when things do come back about being gig ready, and I know I've spoken to Amy V, one of our board members and ambassadors, about this, about when music comes back, that musicians will be kind of expected to be on and presenting this incredible music, but without being gig ready from just being in that cycle of doing them. I think, the audience can give a little bit of leeway in, realizing that people have had months and months where they've been off and not been doing that. But there is a lot of pressure, to keep creating, keep doing this, keep looking forward to the future. And I just don't think that's terribly healthy, because Melbourne's on lockdown 6, lockdown 7. Everyone's forgotten the number of what it is. So how do we keep getting excited about that? So yeah, I don't know if that entirely answers the question, especially for those that aren't in lockdown. But yeah, that's some of the things I've been hearing and feeling.
Okay. Well, I think it's really helpful, the recognizing that there are some things that we can do, and I think it is got to be individual, right? So some people it's just too hard and too disappointing to be prepping. So even my brother was meant to be doing an album release show, postponed twice. He's like, I just don't even think half of my friends, may not even be able to come if, the density limits and everything open. So we're just going to pivot to doing something online because I can't keep doing the possibility of this happening and it not happening. So I guess you have to know yourself in that space. And my encouragement with people would be just do something creative. You can't be playing live gigs. Go and learn a craft or take up dot painting or build something or do something with your hands that requires some thought and some effort, and then you can say, look what I've created. I think for me that's been great. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm planning a really great vegetable garden this season. I usually am a bit hit or miss, but I've planned it. I've been to Bunnings. I've got all the stuff. And I enjoy the hand work. I enjoy checking on the seeds and checking on things and seeing what and then